Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Hey everyone, Ray Flowers, FantasyGuru.com. How you doing this morning? Looking like we're having a little bit of tech issues as I get a code here that's saying that things aren't working right, and then I check on and it's working right. So all right, let's go. I don't know. I think we're live. Are we live today? Hello? Bueller? I think we're good today. I'm Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. Thanks for joining me today. Let me make sure my microphone is on too. That would be a good thing. We don't want to have the old microphone turned off because we had that experience one time. Looks like we're good to go here on the show today. Again, I'm Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. Fantasy Sports Daily is here every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That's Monday through Friday for those of you that are slow in the morning like I am. At 12 noon Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time, ready to rock and roll here all week long. It's a different week this week, as you're all aware. Baseball's on its hiatus. There's the All-Star break. So we're going to be doing things a little bit differently this week. On Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we'll do our football visits halfway through the show, so at about 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Wednesday will be Armando Marsal. Thursday will be Tyler Beaker. Friday will be Russell Clay. But for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday this week, we're going to do something that's a little different. Hopefully it's fun and exciting, and you'll still want to pay attention to it and all that kind of good stuff. We're going to look at things in a positional manner. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a podcast here on the network. The network being the Fantasy Sports Network. You can find that on YouTube at youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork. On Facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ. You can watch us live there in both spots. You can ask questions. You can interact. We answer those at the end of the show every day. You can also watch us live on Twitter X at Fantasy Guru site. Find us at the website, FantasyGuru.com. Click that Elite Plus tab at the top of the page. And you can find us there as well. Type in Fantasy Sports Daily to your local podcast network. We're going to have a show every day, Monday through Thursday this week. First off, we're going to look at infielders. Then we're going to look at outfielders. Then we're going to look at starting pitchers. Then we're going to look at relief pitchers. So we're going to have a show. I always struggle in the mornings. Geez. A show, I guess, because I only talk to my cat in the morning. I got to talk to my partner before she gets going for the day, get the juices flowing. Monday, today, we're going to talk about the infielders. Tomorrow, we'll talk about the outfielders. Thursday, starting pitching. Wednesday, starting pitching. Thursday, relief pitching. All of the shows we have here on the Fantasy Sports Daily Show. All those shows will be accompanied by a article at the website. So we'll have a little bit here and a little bit there. So today we're going to start, and let's just throw it up on the screen so everyone knows what we're talking about. Today we're going to talk again about the infield, and we're going to highlight players at each of the positions: catcher, first base, second base, third base, shortstop. So we're going to have about 15 players we're going to talk about here. Over at FantasyGuru.com, we'll then have the article. In the article, we're going to obviously jump into a little bit more depth. We're going to list, let me pull it up right here. First half awards: most valuable player, least valuable player, most disappointing player, out of nowhere player, best rookie, worst rookie, most fortunate, least fortunate, biggest miss, and biggest hit. So we'll have the video here on the show, and then we'll have those first half awards given in the articles over at FantasyGuru.com. So hopefully you'll check us out here, enjoy this, and then go over to the site. When that article gets posted, it'll be up in a couple hours over at FantasyGuru.com as well. As you can see that on the screen, we're going to go through all these positions. We're also going to do some waiver wires talk, because this is Monday, and we usually do that even though there's nothing happening right now in the world of baseball. We actually didn't run a waiver process for TOUT Wars. That doesn't get run till Wednesday this week. So, or maybe it's Thursday this week, the 18th. There's nothing to report on there, but for both FSGA and for LABR, we had data. So we'll dig into that here toward the end of the show, as we normally do. And just so everyone knows as well, this is another one of those scenarios. All week is going to be one of these scenarios where I haven't prepped at all what I'm going to say. I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't have any plans to say A or B. We're just going to go. So I'm going to pull up players, and we're going to have a go at it. So let's start out with Connor Wong at the catcher spot as we talk about the infielders today. Connor Wong has been absolutely freaking spectacular. For anyone that took him as their catcher 2 this season, you've been living the high life, man. Dude's hitting over 300, 8 home runs, 30 RBIs, 30 runs scored. He has been great. He's been terrific. Now, Is this going to continue? You know, I mean, is he Mike Piazza? I mean, that's kind of the kind of the numbers we're getting here, kind of the vibe we're getting here. He's done an excellent job at making more contact. He cut his 33% strikeout rate last year down to 20% this year. That's excellent, freaking excellent growth. So if he maintains that, he's going to be really good to go the rest of the way. Now, the issue he's obviously dealing with, at least partially, is the fact that, you know, he's got a 135 isolated power mark, which is well below the league average. His batting average of balls in play is 366. That's obviously higher than it's, you know, reasonably should be expected to be for pretty much anybody. And if you look at him, the last 2 weeks, he's hitting 190. So he has started to slow down. Overall, he's been great. I still think he profiles as a catcher 2 the rest of the way, and I'd be really confident if he was my guy there. If he's my catcher 1, maybe, maybe not. But this is the midseason point, and he has been a star and deserves a gold star. He's been just terrific for the Red Sox and for you in the fantasy space. Now, David Fry is this next guy, and David Fry came out and as a catcher-eligible player who's now caught 22 times. He's also played left field, first base, right field, third base, played all over the place for the Guardians. He basically came out of nowhere. And if you were to look at his performance to date and you were to say to yourself, look, this guy's hitting 279 with a 388 on base percentage and an 850 OPS, you would say this guy is terrific and he's catcher eligible. This is bananas good. All of that is true. Absolutely. 388 on base percentage. For those of you in on base percentage leagues, that's a big boy number. Now, obviously, the problem with David Fry is for everyone that's rostered him, they've started to realize this. He hasn't hit for a month. And I mean, he hasn't hit for a month. Over the last 24 games he has played, he has 1 run scored. 1 run scored while batting 203 with a 540 OPS. He, for a month, has been a free out. And he's been a free out for a month, and his OPS is still 853. That's how amazing he was to start. So no matter, really, if he has another month like the last month, he's still going to blow away expectations. I mean, his OPS at that time would still probably be 750, right? So he's better than anyone could have expected. The real problem with him at this point is prognosticating out, can we get anything of use from David Fry? Because for a month, he's been horrible. And the data is starting to really pull back quickly. His start was so amazing. And, we were, betting on him over at, fantasyguru.com. We were putting him in the DFS lineups all the time at FG, because he was hitting a home run, doubles, 2 doubles here, walk there, 3 RBIs there. Every night was a huge night. His exit velocity is down below 90 miles an hour now. His barrel rate's 7%. His hard hit rate's 41%. These numbers are fine, but they were elite when he started here. So the bottom line with him is I don't think there's anything going on here that's panic mode, like, oh my God, he's horrid. We have to forget how great he was at the start because that is not who he is and who he's going to be. He's got enough versatility and he plays most days for the Guardians that we can continue to use him as a catcher too. As a first baseman, as an outfielder, we don't want to be using him there. Danny Jansen is an interesting player. Danny Jansen, if I remember correctly, I said something to the point of he is the ideal catcher too. When I did those drafts, like if you put together the ideal team, Danny Jansen would be your second catcher. Oof. He has not been an ideal second catcher. His OPS of 707 is not terrible. It's basically average for a catcher. At the same time, it's a 4-year low, and he's got 6 home runs because he's missed some time with injuries, only played enough to get 212 plate appearances. Though last year, in 300 plate appearances, he had 17 home runs. Power's down, batting average is down, performance is down. He has not been an ideal second catcher, not even close. Now, the positive news for Danny Jansen is that while the Blue Jays suck, there's a very reasonable expectation that they're going to start to tear this thing down. And I don't know if Jansen's gotten, I don't know. You never know how a player is, right? He's been with the Blue Jays his entire career. Maybe it's time for a change. And there are a lot of rumors that Jansen's going to get dealt to another team. I can't imagine he gets dealt to a team to be a backup catcher. So my hope is that he goes somewhere and he at least plays as much as he's playing now. Maybe, a new hitting coach in his ear, maybe, just a new scenario and invigorates him, whatever. But that's kind of my hope with him. Because of the fact that, to date, he just hasn't done it. And, I've had a miss. He could have a huge second half and pull it out for me, if you will, in the fantasy space. But this first half has been really disappointing for him. Vinnie Pasquantino, he's been fine. And I can't say that that's a huge disappointment. I can't say that he's been disappointing overall. I think it's fair to put him in that bucket. He had an 830 OPS as a rookie, 760 in year 2. It's now 730. Like, this is not And the case with him, like, he still doesn't strike out. His 13% strike rate is excellent. His walk rate is a 3-year low, but it's basically league average. His 243 batting average is really the problem because he does, and this has gone underreported and unnoticed a little bit. He's got 62 RBIs. Like, there's a very reasonable chance he's at 90 to 100 RBIs this year, which is pretty damn good. Now, if it's with 18 home runs and he's hitting 245, he's Nathaniel Lowe, which again is fine as a corner infield option in a deeper mixed league, but more was expected of Pasquantino. And the fact is that the last 2 years, the numbers are very similar in comparison to his rookie season where they were better. And if he's this guy, and again, here's last 154 games started last season, 245, 20, 88. I mean, that's in the, Brandon Drury when he's healthy, Josh Bell, Nathaniel Lowe, that's the, right? He's hitting 285. It's different. He's hitting 245. So not a bottom out season for Vinnie P, but certainly not one where he stepped forward or lived up to expectations. Paul Goldschmidt is somebody that will be in the article. He's, I think, the only player that is in the article that is also here because I tried to cover, multiple players in different ways, right? But this is a guy that it's just, it's just not happening for Paul Goldschmidt. And everyone knows that. He's 36. He'll be 37 soon. And this can happen to older players. At the same time, last year he was very effective, 270, 25-10, 80 RBIs, runs scored, very effective. I thought it was very reasonable. I think most people did too. That he would be that guy again. Not a star, not going back to his 2022 or anything like that, but hitting 270 with 25 home runs. He's hitting 230. He could still get to 25 home runs. He got 13, but he's hitting 230. And the fact is that his walk rate is the lowest it's ever been. His strikeout rate is the highest it's been since 2011. His OPS is 664, which is a catastrophic fall for a guy who, entered the season at about 900 for his career. He just hasn't been good. The only saving grace for him is he plays every day because he's just part of the Cardinals lineup. So, he's got the run score total up to 47, but 37 RBIs for a guy who's playing every day. Paul Goldschmidt has been a woeful disappointment. And there's nothing overtly obvious in the data to suggest we're getting a full snapback, but I will tell you, his expected batting average, his expected slugging percentage, and his expected WOBA are all much better than the raw numbers right now. So if he keeps hitting the ball the way he has, the numbers should improve in the second half, not to the level of expectations on day one, but he should be at least usable as a corner infield option in the second half. Nat Olson, I lied. Matt Olson's also in the article that I was putting together this morning for the Infield. Look, Nat Olson has a chance to, with a strong second half, go 30-90, which on the surface sounds pretty good. But he went 54-139 last year, which then makes that number really bad, or those numbers really bad. He has gone 30-100 each of the last 3 years. He has 13 home runs and 44 RBIs right now. It is not impossible that he has a strong second half and goes 30-100 for the 4th straight season. It's going to be a stretch. Not that he couldn't do it, but it's going to be a stretch. He's hit, for his career, 253. Last year he hit 283, which was a career best. His last 3 years hitting 264. Right now he's hitting 229. Right? So what is likely to happen is we're going to see an improvement in the second half. His strikeout rate is a 4-year high, but it's 27%. It's not crazy. His walk rate is a 5-year low, at 9%. Not a bad number, but down. His isolated power mark is way down. The exit velocity is down, but it's still 92 miles an hour. The launch angle is exactly the same as the last 3 years. The barrel rate is down at 10%. He hasn't had a mark this low ever. His career mark is 13%. I think it's reasonable with health to expect that number to come around. I think it's reasonable to expect him to add a couple of points to his hard hit rate to get him back to his career average. End of the day, he is someone that I could see showing some improvement. I think one of the biggest things with him, and it's home run to fly ball ratios tend to normalize. For just a quick reminder, the previous 3 years are a very good guesstimate as to what year 4 will bring. Now this is pending health and age and skill levels not regressing, and he's got the age and the health, and I don't think his skill level has regressed. The last 3 years, that mark is 22%. This year, the mark is 13%. So, he is the kind of player, right? He's not beating out ground balls and stuff, that 229 batting average becomes 249 really quickly if 4, 5, 6 of these balls he hit in the air fall for hits, doubles, that kind of thing. If 3 of those batted balls are home runs, he's got 16 home runs. He's on pace for 30, and we're feeling a little bit better about it. So understand that there's room to grow here for him, and I think that that's quite likely to occur in the second half. His teammate Ozzie Albies. Let's move on to second base. Ozzie Albies he's been effective, and the problem, he's dealt with some injuries, right? But he's still played 87 games, so he's been out there most of the time. He's on pace to match or surpass the 13 steals of last year. He's got 8. And he's hitting 258, which is, a hot month away from his 270 career average. So those 2 numbers are good. The real issue for him is that all the counting category numbers are down. 95 runs, 110 RBIs last year, huge numbers. This year he's on pace for about 90, 80. Okay, that works. Okay, right? A little down, but that works. The real issue for him has been the home run. His last 2 healthy seasons, he's hit 30 and 33 home runs. This year he's got 8. And I've talked about this. I remember the first time I saw him in San Francisco live, and I was like, that dude is tiny. What do they list him at? They list him at 5'8", 165. Okay, I can buy that, but God, he's tiny. He would look like a little person next to me. Like, he's tiny. And so I'm not surprised to see him, because it's kind of the Jose Altuve zone. It's like, look, man, you can hit 30 home runs, but aren't you a 15 to 20 home run hitter? Well, that's who he's been this season. You look at his isolated power mark, it's way down. And we're talking about Ozzie Albies. It's way down. The exit velocity is the same. The launch angle is actually up a little bit, so he's still lifting the baseball. One of the deals with him is his pull rate is down from last season. It was 55% last year, though I think given his overall game, that's not a bad thing. It's down to 48%, which is an exact match for 2022 when he still hit 30 home runs. I think we see some regression in the positive sense. Home run to fly ball ratio with him is 6%. His career mark is 12%. So I think, again, just like with Olson, it's very reasonable to think he gets better in the second half. And for all the greatness that the Braves were last year offensively, they've struggled a little bit to recapture that this year, which is understandable because they were so good, historically good last year. But there haven't been many periods of time where this team is hit. And there's been Austin Riley here. There's been Marcell Ozuna like all year long. Jared Kelenic a little bit, Matt Olson a little bit, Ozzie Albies a little bit. Like, they all haven't really gotten going at the same time. If that happens in the second half, good things will happen for the Braves. Jake Cronenworth deserves a little shout out. Jake Cronenworth is listed here at second base, but obviously he qualifies at first base too. Cronenworth has been, he's the quintessential, I draft him and he's fine. And then you look up and you're like, well, look, he's played 40 plus games at first base and second base, so he will qualify at both those spots again next year. He's always in the lineup, right? Which is one of his strengths, because he doesn't do anything that hops off the page at you. But he's always in the lineup, and he's hitting third. He's always in the middle of the lineup for the Padres. And he's hitting 257 with 2 steals. He's also on pace to go 20-100 with 95 runs scored. And this is the thing with these guys. He's kind of the Brian Reynolds of the infield, that nothing on its own really stands out until he plays 150 games. And then you realize, well, yeah, he's been solid across the board. And oh, by the way, he qualifies at multiple positions, which is so big. You can't underrate that at all anymore because of all the injuries and everything we're dealing with. So anyone that qualifies at multiple positions like Cronenworth, I mean, that's a huge plus. And again, he's on pace for a career best season. But remember, back in 2021, he had 21 home runs and 94 runs scored. So he's been there. 2022, 17 home runs, 88 runs scored, 88 RBIs. He's been there. He's been here before. So just a really strong performer without doing anything excellent is Jake Cronenworth. Brice Turang, I made these notes this morning, and then I said I'm not double dipping. I'm double dipping all over the place. I realized that in the article. Brice Turang will be in the article. Chrisopher Morel will be in the article. Okay, I think that's all we got. Maybe an Oneil Cruz will be in the article. I don't know. Maybe I misspoke at the top. I'll try not to do that moving forward. Brice Turang was somebody that came up with a lot of expectations last year. And he did one thing well. He stole bases. He stole 26 bases. But there wasn't much power. There was no run production. The batting average was terrible. And, looking to him, it's just like coming into this year, you're like, look, he's a nice talent. Let's take him in the reserve rounds and we'll see. That kind of thing, right? Like, it wasn't. Let me even pull up his ADP real quick. Brice Turang. His ADP was 340. So maybe, right around the reserve rounds. Depends on your league size, right? And what have you gotten out of that? Well, out of that, you've gotten a guy who is almost well, I would say this. If you didn't play another game this year, he's already paid off on your investment and you won, which is pretty shocking to say. If he doesn't play another game this year, you've won. He's matched his home run total from last year. He's 1 run down from last year. He's 4 RBIs ahead of last year. He has 30 steals in only 93 games, so he's already ahead of last year's steal total, and he's batting .277. It's been a huge win. Huge win across the board. Now, he's been effective against left-handed pitching, but he doesn't really play against lefties. They usually, he's got 69 plate appearances against lefties, so he's not out there a lot. Overall, his performance has been terrific. I'm not saying a negative thing about his performance to date. I will say, as I have said previously, I am concerned about his ability to sustain what he's done in the first half. It's 2 weeks. It doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme. But the last 2 weeks, he's hitting 188 with a 493 on base percent, or 493 OPS, excuse me. And the last month, still stolen 6 bases, but he's hitting 250 with a 690 OPS. I think he's had such a great start, and he's been so effective that he will stay in the lineup almost every day for the Brewers. Again, against some lefties, he'll pull him out, but he'll play against all the righties. He's got a legitimate chance to steal 40, 45 bases. I don't think he hits 270. I think he's a 250 hitter the rest of the way. And if that happens, we've seen the best, I think, of Brice Turang. And again, he's a huge hit. Anyone that drafted him, picked him up off the waiver wire, so you've won, right? So I just really struggled to see him posting his batting average, on-base percentage, or slugging percentage that he currently has in the second half of the season. So be cautious with the expectations with Brice Turang. Just remember how great he has been. Manny Machado at third base. Manny's always been one of my guys. Why? Kind of boring, kind of stable. Well, not kind of stable, extremely stable. And he's always productive. And this season, there's been long periods of time where he hasn't hit home runs. There's been concerns about his health. And in the end, right now, he's on pace to hit 25 home runs with 95 RBIs, something like that, 90 RBIs. And a 25-90 season would be disappointment because he's gone 28-91 in every one of his healthy seasons going back to 2016. And in 2015, he went 35-86. So basically, he's gone 30-90 every year since 2015, every full season. Could he do that again? He could. Because again, he's got 13 home runs, 52 RBIs. These are numbers that could end up at 30-90. He's got his batting average up to 267, which that was really struggling for a while. And I think that, he's kind of like a fine wine. It's like, is this greatness? No. Is this his last month of time, 20 RBIs, 7 home runs, hitting 314. And I don't think enough people have recognized that fact because his overall numbers are down. And before the last month of time, his numbers were way down. But Manny Machado is going to get there at the end. He's just going to get there. Is it sexy? Is it exciting? No. Is it appreciably better than last season? Doesn't look like it's going to be. But when you can bank a guy to play 145 games, which he played 138 last year. It's the first time he failed to play 150 in a full season since 2014. When you play every day and you go 30-90 and you score 75-80 runs and you hit 265, you're just good. And he is 32 years old. And he's a very interesting player because if you look at his career, he started out at shortstop and playing third base now. He's going to have numbers when he retires, barring something unforeseen, that stack up really well against the greats of all time at third base. Seriously. I mean, he's up to 326 home runs. He's got 1,800 hits. You can very easily create a scenario where if he plays until he's 40 years old, right, where he's got a chance to push for 500 home runs and 3,000 hits. And we just don't see that very often, right? And it would be the Eddie Murray route to being that kind of guy, right? Just good, stable, steady year after year. A couple of blips with greatness, but really just good, stable, and steady. And that's basically what we've gotten this year. It's been a little uneven for him, a little more uneven than normal for Manny Machado. But again, the last month, he's really rounded into form, and I expect that to continue in the second half. Chrisopher Morel. Chrisopher Morel is fascinating because he has 18 home runs, 50 RBIs, 42 runs scored, and 7 steals. All of that's occurring in less than 400 plate appearances. So this is a 25, 75, 10 steal season, which again is, I think, about as good as anyone could have expected. He's hitting 202, which is terrible, even for him, right? Oh, all the damn strikeouts. That's the thing with Morel. He's done an excellent job with the strikeouts. A 31% strikeout rate the last 2 years is 24% this year. That's a significant. So he's gone from terrible to just about league average in the strikeout column. That's a significant step forward. He's also increased his walk rate. Not much, 1.5% or something, but he's increased his walk rate. So how's he hitting 202? His batting average of balls in play is 218. I mean, I know he's hitting the ball a little softer than last year, but his expected batting average is 248. So Chrisopher Morel is always going to have holes in his game. I am greatly intrigued and interested in the fact that he increased his contact rate while also increasing his walk rate. That's a great sign. And if he hit 245 in the second half, I mean, his expected batting average right now is 248. If he hit 245 in the second half, I wouldn't be surprised at all. And that would make his line look much better if that was indeed the case. 26 games at DH, but 70 at third base. So he will be third base eligible come 2025. Jordan Westburg. Westburg is, it's easy. And Westburg was in that same, what was his ADP? I bet it was after Turang, right? Let's look at Westburg's ADP. Westburg. I learned how to spell, which is not always an easy thing when you're, here we go. 306. So a little bit better than Turang, actually. He came into this season, and you said to yourself, well, all right, Jordan Westburg was a high-end prospect for the Orioles. Didn't really get it done last year, but it looks like he's going to play most days. I'll take a late shot, which is what people did. At this point of the season, he's played 40 games at second and third, so he'll retain both of those positions defensively next year, which is great for his outlook, of course. And if you look at his production right now, it dwarfs what he did last year. And frankly, I mean, this is really good stuff. This is a very Manny Machado-like first half. 15 home runs, 50 RBIs, 46 runs scored, 271 average, 6 steals. That was not, I mean, if you put those numbers up all season long, okay, right? Like, okay, we can live with that. That's understandable. It's 89 games in. He's been really good. And that's not surprising because it seems like all the Orioles guys, for whatever reason, all of them, the youngsters, get called up. They struggle at the start. They find their groove. Westburg has certainly found his groove. Now, one negative with Westburg, and this, maybe this will change as he develops, but right now he's not good against left-handed pitching. He's got an 855 OPS against righties, all-star level stuff. Against lefties, that OPS is 693, and he's hitting 225. So he's got to do some work against lefties because the Orioles have so many weapons that they can turn to that, if he struggles all year long against lefties, he may not be facing them every day next year, that kind of thing. But he's been great. He's been productive, qualifies at multiple positions. Shout out to Jordan Westburg. All but positives for him. He has been another one of these guys who's been pretty damn terrific for the Orioles. All right, let's go to the shortstop position. Let's go back to sorry, my cat Dexter's talking to me. Go back to the Padres. Ha-Seong Kim. He's played 97 games at shortstop. So we just got Xander Bogaerts back, who's going to play second base. It doesn't look like Kim is going to qualify anywhere but shortstop next year. So for the first time in a couple of years here, he's going to qualify at one position. That's okay. It's not ideal, but it's okay. We can deal with that. His production last year was really good. I mean, he almost went 20-40 last year. Now this year, he's on pace to go about 20-35, which is obviously not the same as last year, but it's pretty close. And I think that, you look at his RBI total, he's got 55 games here to get 20 RBIs to match his total for last season. That's doable. He's going to struggle in the runs column. He has 48 this year. He had 84 last year, but it's close. The real issue for him is he's hitting 226 because the counting numbers, the steals are very similar to last season. And I think they're well within the realm of what people should have been expecting this year. For a guy who hit 255 the last years to be batting 226 now is a problem though. So let's dive into this a little bit with Ha-Seong Kim. Kim's walk rate right now is a career best. Barely above last season, very similar. Strikeout rate is a career best. So he's got a 0.8 walk to strikeout rate, as you know. We love seeing that. Okay. His isolated power mark, virtually identical to the last 2 years. Okay, so that's very, very similar. His hard hit rate, career best. His barrel rate, career best. His exit velocity, career best. Career best across the board, right? Okay. His pull rate is down about 3% from last year. He's hitting a few more balls the opposite field, which in theory, given his style of hitting, that's not a bad thing. But, we're basically looking at a guy who across the board is very, very similar. And in fact, if you look at his expected slugging percentage last year and his expected slugging percentage this year, the gap is 8 points. It's almost exactly the same. So his expected batting average last year and his expected batting average this year, the gap is 7 points. It's almost exactly the same. I think it's very reasonable to say that though he's hitting 226 right now, he could hit 250 the rest of the way. I think it's very reasonable. I think the numbers clearly support that. If he hits 250 the rest of the way, then his on-base percentage goes from 330 to 345. He's on base a little bit more. Gives him an opportunity to score and run a little bit more. So I see no reason to be concerned with Kim. He's had some starts and stops. He's really had a hard time, I think, just consistently getting the hits to fall. Part of that being a 245 batting average of balls in play, which is, come on, that's stupid. The last 2 years marks 298, which is almost dead on a league average player, right? That number should go up too. So I think the batting average responds, and just like his teammate Jake Cronenworth, the numbers don't really jump at you until the season is over, and then you're like, man, this guy hit 18 home runs with 32 steals. That's a pretty damn good season. Anthony Volpe is somebody that, as we've talked about over and over again, mostly in articles at fantasyguru.com, ended up in the best spot in all of baseball for a lineup. He ended up hitting one in front of Soto and Judge in arguably the best spot in a batting order in baseball. And for a while there, he was killing it. And if you were to look up and say, okay, Ray, he's on pace to hit 12 home runs with 30 steals. Well, last year he went 20-20, so that'd be a little disappointing, but okay. In 60 games less than he played last year, he's got the exact same run total. That's what happens when leadoff in front of the two best guys in baseball helps, all right? His RBI total, he had 60 last year, he had 32 this year, so that number's come down, which again, he's sitting at the top of the order. So we basically have the same-ish in some areas. We have the better-ish in other areas. On the positive side, his strikeout rate is down to 21%, which is a big step forward from 28% last year. Again, I attribute a lot of that to your batting leadoff for the Yankees. You can't be walking this guy and putting him on base for Soto and Judge. So they're challenging him. And as a result, he's getting probably better pitches to hit, and he's putting the ball in play. Now, I've said over and over again, batting leadoff. The problem is now he's not batting leadoff. He is no longer the leadoff hitter of the Yankees. And with his overall offensive game, that's not ideal. The last month in time, Anthony Volpe has been one of the worst full-time players in baseball in terms of his production. Over the last month, he has no home runs. He's got no steals. He's batting 174 with a 456 OPS. Those numbers are hideous. They are downright hideous. And again, now he's not batting leadoff. He's now down hitting 6th, 7th, whatever they're doing. As Dexter's trying to cause problems over here again. Dexter, I'm paying attention to you, buddy. You don't need to cause problems all day. Anthony Volpe, not good, folks. And with the outlook of him returning to the top spot, can we not do this? Hold on one second. All right. I think Dexter needs some more food. With the outlook of him taking over the top spot in the batting order for the Yankees diminishing on almost daily basis just because of his struggles, we're in a little bit of a danger zone with Anthony Volpe. Okay, hold on a sec, folks. Dexter. All right. For those of you wondering what's happening here on the screen, you know what? Let's make Ray a little bit bigger. There we go. Slam Magazine, Chet Holmgren, big dog. That's what Dexter had found and was messing with on the ground. The Volpe is just, it's rough. And with the power down a little bit from last year, with the batting average continually going down, with the drop into the bottom third of the batting order, his outlook for the second half is really muted compared to the first half. He's not going to go 20-20 like he did last year, barring something pretty unforeseen in the second half. All the talk about him changing his swing and getting all excited about that. His OPS last year was 666. His OPS right now is 666. So, again, there's some improvements here, including the strikeout rate. But overall, this season, which started out with such promise with Anthony Volpe, has really slowed down to the point where it's now a concern for Anthony Volpe. Oneil Cruz, the next guy up here as we wrap up the infield before hitting some waiver wire action. Oneil Cruz, the Cruz brothers, he and Ellie De La Cruz were our cover boys for our product this year at fantasyguru.com, and he's been disappointing. What is my cat? Dexter, what are you doing? Jeez, now he's got a water bottle. This guy's on fire. He's got 7 steals in 85 games. That, to me, is the disappointing part because I thought 25 steals was going to happen for him. Could still happen in the second half, though he tweaked his ankle, so we have a little bit of a concern there. 14 home runs, 44 RBIs, 41 runs scored. Not sexy or exciting, but that's a 25 75 pace. And if he goes 25, 75, 75 with 15 steals while batting 250, it's not a bad season. Hold on a second. Dexter. Jeez, I apologize, everyone. It's the first time my cat has gone nuts during a show. Come on, dude. So 25, 75, 75, 15, 250. Like if he did that this year, it'd be okay. Was I hoping for more? Yeah. Is there still a chance for him to have a huge second half? Absolutely. And that's the thing with Oneil Cruz. Like I know people are disappointed because I did talk him up in the preseason. And I know, we all talked about 2020 and these kind of things. We have to remember too, he played 9 games last year. He basically lost an entire season. So I think that he's been uneven to date. He's been up and down to date. He's basically been a 750 OPS guy the last 3 years. He's marked 745 for his career. The strikeout rate of 33% is not good. The biggest issue he's had, and it's an obvious one for anyone that's looked into it, is the fact that against right-handed pitching, he's been really good. He's got an 834 OPS. He's an all-star level player against right-handed pitching, batting 280. He's batting 148 against left-handed pitching. And, that's with a 450 OPS. Like I was talking earlier about, some platoon concerns with guys like Turang. Like Oneil Cruz has got a year to figure this out. And if he doesn't, and we've seen this even when he hits against lefties, they often drop him in the batting order because it's like they don't have somebody to replace him in the order. There's still the potential for him to have a massive game at any time, but he doesn't hit high in the order. So that's going to be something that also, even if he stays in the lineup against lefties, unless there's an improvement there, he's going to see his counting category numbers struggle a little bit to meet expectations because he's going to be hitting down in the order against the left-handed pitchers. So remember, tomorrow we're going to talk outfielders. Wednesday, we're going to talk starting pitchers. Thursday, we're going to talk relief pitchers. All of these 4 shows will have accompanying articles over at fantasyguru.com where we dive more in. And I'll give those first half awards. Most exciting, least exciting. Those aren't the categories. What were they? MVP, least valuable player. I'm going to try to exclude injuries because, again, if guys get hurt, you can't really blame guys for that. We'll talk about best rookies, worst rookies, best calls, worst calls, all that kind of stuff in the articles over at fantasyguru.com. All right, let's talk a little fab as we do every week here. As you can see on the screen there, my Tout Wars League. And let's give updates on all this stuff because why not? So it's at the All-Star break. This is Tout Wars team. I've said incorrectly all year long. It's a 12-team league. That is not true. It is a 15-team league. I am currently in first place in that league. I have 120.5 points. Ryan Boyer's second. He's at 104. So good first half for this team. No waivers were run for this squad. They run later this week. So I have nothing to share there for that scenario. All right, let's pull up the next league, though, because we do have fab to talk about. The LABR league. Okay, in LABR, I'm 6th place out of the 14 teams, so I'm right in the middle. Really boring. My team, quick update on my team. Like who I have on the injured list. Stuart Fairchild. Mike Trout's on the injured list. Luis Rengifo's on the injured list. Max Muncy's on the injured list. Ugh. On the pitching side of things, I lost Giolito and Yuri Perez before the season started. I lost Yamamoto in season. I lost Bailey Falter. Reed Detmers got demoted. So this team is piecemeal. What did people do this week? This is a league where we have $100 in this 15-team LABR league, 5x5. So traditional setup. Reese Hins went for 5. As you can see, there are a bunch of failed bids. There was a failed bid for 5. If the bids are tied, it goes to the team with the worst record. 5, 2, 2, 2, 3, 4, 4, 1. I was one of the guys that bid 2 or 3. Let's say 2. I think I went 2. I had 3, and I think I backed it up to 2. Hins has been absolutely spectacular. He's had one of the greatest power hitting starts to a career in baseball history. Obviously, in the case of the Reds, the question with him is not when he slows down, because he's not the greatest hitter who ever lived. When he slows down, what does that look like for a team that is expecting to get Stuart Fairchild back in short order from his spine issue? TJ Friedel's coming back from a hamstring issue. Those are 2 outfielders. Like, what happens here? What happens if Matt McClain returns from a shoulder issue in a month? Like, where does Hins play? So that's why the bidding here was, I think, muted. People taking a shot, realizing the playing time with him is a little uncertain. Lawrence Butler was added for 5. This is another one of those players. Let me pull it up just to make sure that I'm not speaking on my butt because I bid on these guys in all these leagues. Lawrence Butler, I bid $2 on. Reese Hins, that was $2. So I lost out on Butler too. Butler went for $5. Again, you see my failed bid there. There were a couple of bids at 4 and then a bid at 3. And Butler, he's on my Dynasty League team. We've talked about him here on the show previously. He's a youngster with some holes in his game, but he is blazing hot. I don't think that hitting the 2 home runs yesterday helped out. Maybe I could have gone for a couple of bucks. I don't know if that game with the Athletics where everyone was hitting 2 home runs changed the bid pricing. But he's now had 5 home runs with 13 RBIs and 2 steals the last 6 games. Ooh. The last 12 games, that's 7 home runs and 17 RBIs. Even if you go back the last 30 games, it's only 7 home runs and 18 RBIs. So there's not much there. But he's still at 260 with an 887 OPS. So he is in a wonderful groove now. You've obviously missed the best he's going to offer this season. He's not having another week like he just did, or probably over 2 weeks like he just did. But he is somebody that should play on basically a daily basis. And as we talked about here on the show, he is a 2020 talent. Will there be cold streaks? Probably. In fact, there almost certainly will be, just like there are the hot streaks. But he is blazing right now. And for those of you that are looking for an outfield boost, let's just hope that if you added him, that we don't get a little bit of a step back because of the delay or no one's playing this week, because he's been terrific. Juan Yepez went for $4 to prospect 361. Yepez, I had it $1, so I was the lone bidder for Yepez. It didn't get him. Yepez called up by the Nationals, basically, I mean, not really, but basically because they got rid of Nick Senzel and Eddie Rosario. Yepez has played 10 games at first base, and Joey Meneses they sent down. Yepez is a solid major league hitter, at least potentially. And in 10 games this year, he's hitting 378 with 1,000 OPS. Interestingly enough, he kind of profiles similarly to Meneses himself. So, Yepez is somebody that, depending upon your setup, could qualify at infield, outfield, first base, outfield. So that's a nice bit boost if you're able to get him in that respect. A short-term pickup, as we're talking about here, for a couple of bucks. And we're going to see if we can catch some lightning in a bottle with him. Luis Ortiz went for $3. Tons of failed bids. I added Luis Ortiz in the Tout Wars League last week. We talked about that. I went out and had a solid game against the White Sox yesterday. Failed bids for him. He won for $3. Then we had 4 separate bids at $2, and then a couple of bids at $1, 3 bids for $1. So everyone was in on Ortiz in a very short term. Yolbert Diaz went for $3. Diaz was somebody that I bid $1 on and didn't get. So, and the reason, I should have said this earlier too, I'm starting to get a little low in funds. I'm at $24. There are 1, 2, 3. There's only 3 teams with less money than me right now. As I said, I've been piecing this thing together like a madman. In this league, LABR, you can only add players for $1 or more. So I can't be bidding $5 on players anymore. I just can't, So anyway, I bid $1 on Diaz, didn't get him. Diaz has got nice talent. There's a lot of people that think he's better off in the bullpen. Right now, he's getting a chance to start for the Diamondbacks. He's been very effective in his 2 outings for that club. 12 innings of work. He's only given up a couple of runs. Only has 7 strikeouts. And again, and you can see it reflected in the bidding in the room. No one went crazy there with him. But hey, let's pick him up, give it a shot. Xavier Edwards went to me for $3. Here's my $3 bid. It might be one of my last $3 bids this season. Don't tell my league mates. He qualifies at second base and shortstop, does Xavier Edwards. So I wanted to make sure I got him. I'm very surprised no one else bid on him. We talked about him here on the show. The fact that he's going to play every day. It looks like now with Tim Anderson gone, the last 12 games, stolen 3 bases, hitting 370, 884 OPS. This guy has the ability to be a 290, 300 hitter. He has the ability to steal 35, 40 bases. I'm not saying either of those things is going to show up in the second half. I'm not saying that. But I will say the last 2 weeks he's been that guy. And the dual position eligibility is something that I'm looking for in this league, especially with Luis Rengifo dealing with injury right now. Ben Joyce went for $3 to the fantasy fix. I was one of the people with the $1 bids that failed there. I did not get him, of course. Ben Joyce has a very, very reasonable chance for everyone listening. Everyone pay attention. Ben Joyce has a very reasonable chance to be the closer for the Angels in the second half of the season. It's very reasonable, again, to use that term, to expect or think that the Angels could deal Carlos Estevez, opening up the 9th inning with Ben Joyce at least being in the mix. So I bid myself in multiple leagues, low dollar amounts at Ben Joyce. My advice to you, if you can take one thing away from this, if you're looking for work in the 9th inning, get Ben Joyce. I also suggest Dylan Floro of the Nationals. They traded away Hunter Harvey. Might they trade away Kyle Finnegan? I think Dylan Floro would probably be the first guy up. That's not a certainty. There might be a shared scenario with the Nationals. But both Joyce and Floro are guys that if you're looking to make an aggressive move on the relief pitcher spot right now, guys to go for. Matt Wallner went for a couple of bucks. Another failed bid for $2 there. Angel Martinez went for $2. Josh Palacios for $1. Ryan Nelson for $1. Tyler Phillips for $1. And Jake Bloss for $1. So a lot of dollar shopping there. People basically looking for short-term additions there to help out their squads. All right, let's go to talk about the FSGA League. The FSGA League is not going very well for Ray Flowers. Ray Flowers is in 11th place in this one. Let's look at my injured list in this one. Cody Bellinger just went on the injured list. Chris Bryant's been on the injured list all year. Vaughn Grissom's basically been on the injured list all year. Luis Rengifo's on the injury list right now. Walker Buehler's on the injury list. Bailey Falter's on the injury list. Jesus Luzardo's on the injury list. Clark Schmidt's on the injury list. Like, at some point, I mean, you know, Cody Bellinger's an everyday guy. Bryant should be an everyday guy. Vaughn Grissom in a 14-team league should be an everyday guy. Luis Rengifo's been an everyday guy. Walker Buehler should be an every-time starter. Jesus Luzardo's an every-time starter. Clark Schmidt should be an every-time starter. So what is that? 7 guys that are every week starters that aren't, they're on, they can do. And, you know, you look at my team here, I've got my starting pitchers. I've got Kyle Gibson and Lance Lynn and Colin Ray, you know, I mean, Ryan Nelson. I mean, this is bad on the offensive side of things. I got Justin Turner, who's been all over the place. He's back in another one of these slumps. He hasn't hit. My other option at third base or corner infield is Luke Raley, who's had a decent season. He's hitting 195 the last month. Like, there's just nothing. There's nothing here. You know, Tommy Pham has been fine, but he's been slightly disappointing too. Just not happening for me. So anyway, Jake Bloss, we have $1,000 in this one to spend instead of $100. And in this league, you can add players for $0. Bloss went for $26. Yilbert Diaz went for $22. I failed at 21. That's how I put it in red. I just missed by $1. So hey, that's the breaks, kids. That's how it goes sometimes. MJ Melendez went for $22. We talked about Melendez earlier this week. He has hit the ball better of late. He's got 3 home runs in the last week, whatever it is. Obviously, he's not a catcher-eligible player. Let me make sure that it all runs together at some point. Yeah, he's only outfield eligible. Yeah, he's fine. And again, $1,000, $22. Who cares? The backup bid was $14 on him. I went with Ryan Nelson for $21, that same price point as Yilbert Diaz. I was outbid, obviously, there, so I get Ryan Nelson. Ryan Nelson, his last 5 starts, CRA is 3.99 and his whip is 0.99. And he falls right into the, hey, Lance Lynn, hey, Bailey Falter, just the guy I'm trying to piece it together with. He's pitched much better the last month. He saw some horrible splits, and he's not someone that I would recommend anyone goes out there and bids aggressively on. As you can see, the failed bid for him was 14. So, again, and someone else bid $2, right? So everyone's kind of hoping to get 3 or 4 or 5 starts out of this guy. If I could do that, I'd feel pretty good. Maybe Walker Buehler can figure it out. Maybe he won't this year, and it's never going to get better, but we'll see. Juan Yepes went for 16 here. Angel Martinez for 14. We talked about both those players previously. Geraldo Perdomo. Perdomo, let's look him up. He's actually been, better of late with the bat, which isn't saying much because he wasn't very good to start the season. And he obviously has dealt with injuries as well. Perdomo, there's Perdomo. Hitting 290 the last 2 weeks. He's got 11 runs scored in 12 games. He's got a little bit of speed, doesn't have any power, doesn't have any run production. And again, a $9 bid and $1,000. We're just looking to pick up a guy for, a week or two. This guy's interesting. Justin Henry Malloy. He is somebody that I'm actually starting on a daily basis in the LABR League, I believe it is. I think I'm starting him every day. He has hit 300 the last 10 games. A couple of home runs. He's got 5 home runs and 96 at bats. He when he was called up, we talked about him. He's got a nice power stroke. He hasn't done anything exciting, but he's been usable in most of your leagues. He's probably on the waiver wire, and he probably should remain there. But again, he is hitting 300 with a 900 OPS the last 2 weeks. Likely qualifies at third base, maybe outfield as well. So that's a nice little bonus there. And he, again, in this league went for $8. Failed bids for 6 and 3 for him. Mike Yastrzemski with the game-winning hit for the Giants there. He went for $7. Hunter Renfroe went for $6 to me, to Ray Flowers. Woo! Hunter Renfroe. Ray, why are you bidding on Hunter Renfroe? Hunter Renfroe, his last 20 games, hitting 290 with an 800 OPS. And he's basically been, for the last 2 weeks, kind of Hunter Renfroe. And he runs hot and cold. He's always run hot and cold. His overall numbers are bad. I'm hoping that he rips off a couple of good weeks here. And then we'll see, right? I'm not what did I bid on him exactly? $6. Like if I get a good 10 days out of him, I'll be great. Even if he gets traded to become the fourth outfielder for somebody, the Royals likely want to play him every day to showcase him so they can trade him. That'd be my guess. So I'm trying to play a 2-week run here with Hunter Renfroe. Hit me 3 home runs and about 270, Hunter. I'll be happy with you. Mickey Moniak, same thing. He went for $5. Same thing, right? FTN Fantasy with Ben Joyce for $4. A very good pickup. A very solid pickup there, actually, as I noted. That's a good move. Someone bid $3. Was that me? Let me look this up. Is this another league where I bid on him? Let's see here. Ray Flowers. Oh, actually, you know what? I would have gotten Ben Joyce as I look back at my bidding in this league because I got Ryan Nelson. I was unable to get Ben Joyce, who had at 11. So I did have the high bid on Ben Joyce, it appears, but I didn't get him because I got Ryan Nelson. Hopefully Ryan Nelson is effective, and I didn't just give up 12 saves in the second half. Failed bid for Ben Joyce, $3. Albert Suarez to Adam Ronis for $3. Suarez has been perfectly fine. It's decent innings eaters, pitched pretty well the last month. $3 here. We're playing the matchups. The hard part about playing matchups at this point, obviously, is we're not even quite sure what teams are doing with the rotations coming out of the break. So, but all these bids today make a lot of sense to me. Nothing extravagant at all. So there's a run through. Again, we'll be back tomorrow here. We're available every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday here on Fantasy Sports Daily at 12 o'clock noon Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time. We're rocking and rolling every day. Fantasy Sports Daily in your YouTube and in your podcast network, Fantasy Sports Daily. Elite Plus tab at the top of the page. Click the subscribe tab in the top right corner over at fantasyguru.com. If so, you can get access to our fantasy football package. My PPR running back myth article went up today. Decade plus long research article that I update every year. The idea that you can grab these running backs that, they're just going to catch passes and help me every week. It's not really what happens. So check that out. That article just went live. I'm just getting ready to start writing my auction piece. We also got there's 20 podcasts for the draft guide for fantasyguru.com this year for football. There's 20 podcasts. I think I'm doing 4 of those. We just got our assignments for that, so we'll be cranking those out in short order. So if you get the draft package, again, click subscribe in the top right corner. You get the draft package that includes PPR rankings, non-PPR rankings, dynasty rankings, rookie rankings, IDP rankings, best ball rankings. All of that is part of the guide. We got you covered when you purchase the guide all the way through the entirety of the season, the entire year. So you can get stardom, sit-em, waiver wire, all that stuff throughout the year. You get access to the live stream every Tuesday. You get access to all those podcasts, the 20 of them that I was talking about. Those will start popping up here in a couple of weeks. You get access to the Discord room to ask all your questions. So head over to fantasyguru.com, click that subscribe tab, and get that football package. There's a lot of goodness for you to take advantage of there. One final question here in the chat room. And remember, you can always ask questions if you go live to youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork or facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ. In either one of those two spots when we're on live in the morning, again, 12 o'clock Eastern Time, PM, you can ask a question that we'll address, or leave a comment and we'll address that at the end of the show. John G says, in my 1 points league, I'm having the worst luck. So I traded away players for picks next year. Now I'm on a winning streak with a lesser team. Go figure. I don't like head-to-head. Okay. Points league, I don't know if it's head-to-head. I'm assuming it's head-to-head. If it's a points league, regular, things should even out, right, over the course of the season. But the head-to-head setup is just a tough one, John, and everyone else. I mean, it's one of them. I've talked about it forever. It's why I don't like it. It doesn't have the juice. And if your team's in 11th place out of 15 teams, like, what is your second half going to look like? And maybe that you just give up and go play fantasy football. So I get the head-to-head thing, but I just don't enjoy the head-to-head thing. Trading players for picks. Again, you obviously have a keeper league. Something's going on there. So I hope that you made good moves there, John. I will say this, though. Gosh, I'm really, if we're being honest here, I'm so tired of questions with picks. Like, there've been just so many questions over at fantasyguru.com and Discord about people in dynasty and keeper leagues and trading for picks and picks and picks and picks and picks and picks. You want players. You want known. You want players. You don't want picks. You don't know who else is going to take which players. You don't know who else is going to protect who. You don't know any of that stuff. A pick is great in theory. It's really exciting. But you want concreteness. You want players. You don't want picks. So I'm looking forward to the fantasy football season ramping up for more of the seasonal versus the best ball that everyone's doing right now. I'm tired of talking dynasty draft pick trades. Anyway, that's not to you, John, because you're obviously talking baseball. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that period of time. So anyway, I'm going to go and start writing the articles over at fantasyguru.com. Remember, today we talked about the infield. There'll be an infield article at fantasyguru.com. Tomorrow will be the show and the article in terms of the outfield. Wednesday show article, starting pitchers. Thursday show article, relief pitchers. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we're talking football. Wednesday's Armando. Thursday's Tyler. Friday is Russell. We got you covered. Head over to fantasyguru.com. Check it out, folks. Happy to have you there. If you're not part of the crew, if you are part of the crew, thank you so much. And I hope that we can continue to have success in the second half of the baseball season and help you have success in the 2024 football season. I'm Ray Flowers. This has been Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com.